So when you're looking up chord sequences on YouTube or Google or wherever it happens to be, majors and minors, they can be found reasonably easily. You've got E and E minor, A and A minor, like that. Now with those two different shapes, well, rather two different shape families, so 4 different shapes in all, you can get any major or minor chord by just placing it at various places on the fretboard. So D minor would be there, for example, or A minor, C minor, F minor. So they are essentially derivatives of your main major shapes that we looked at just now. D, A, F and C, and you can get your minors. So that's fair enough. What happens though if you get things like sus4? What does that mean? Well, a chord is based on a scale. So each particular key has a scale that's associated with it. So for example, if we look at A, we have a major scale that goes with it. So sus4 means that you have to change the 3rd note in the scale that is present in your chord to the 4th. And where's that then? 1, 2, 3. It's that one. However, that note isn't in the chord, but this one is, which is the same note but an octave higher. So we had the 3rd note, which was that, but we've also got another 3rd note, which is that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. So what you have to do is replace that note with the 4th, which is only a fret higher. So that chord, you have to move that note up to there, so you end up with this. The guitar's in tune. That is the basis behind, for example, Pinball Wizard. And there's one for the A shape as well. If we have a D chord, which is this, the 3rd note of that scale is that one, which also being an octave higher is part of our chord shape. So we can make that into a sus4 by moving that note up. So we have this. And there you go, there's your sus. It's called a suspension because essentially you've got a note that's being lifted above where it should be, for example. The ear says that that note is going to drop to there. So and you get those for E and A shapes. So there is your sus4 chord. Now, you also get other things like there's usually lots of 7s in your chords. You think, well, what's all that about? It is just a slightly more sophisticated sounding chord in that there are 4 different notes instead of 3. So we have G, for example. G7, you take your, if we have an E shape, we take your last finger away. So you get that extra dimension to your chord. You can also have a minor 7. So if we have G minor, this is using an E shape family here. So G and G minor. G minor 7 is the same thing. You just take the last finger away. And there you go. So you've got 7 and minor 7 shapes available in your E shape family. So we have G, G7, G minor, G minor 7. The same goes for your A shape ones, but you have an extra one that you can use as well. So C, C minor, C7, C minor 7. So you have an extra one here called C major 7. Sounds quite happy and dreamy. You can get an E-shaped one as well, but you have to do a little bit of jigging around with your bar finger, in that lots of people play a major 7 like this in an E shape. They put that note there like that, which is fine as long as you don't include the top note, because you end up with this interval, which doesn't work. The major 7 bit has to have no root notes above it at all. So this doesn't work, whereas this does. So what I've done here is I've taken my bar chord here and I've actually put the bar across 2 frets. So on my 6th string, I'm on my 3rd fret, on the 1st string, I'm on my 2nd fret, using the very end of where my finger joins my hand. And with the shape, I've actually moved it down a string and down a fret. And if you move it down a fret, you can see that you can push your bar finger back. Now, there are other major 7s that you can get using a C shape. If that's a D chord, which is a C shape at 2nd fret, you just take away your middle finger. So there are lots of different ways of getting major 7s. So that's an explanation of how to get your sus4, 7, minor 7 and major 7. That really makes up even more percentage of rock and pop tunes than just majors and minors. Of course, there are other things, diminished and all that, and 6 chords and half diminished and 13s and 9s, but that sort of thing, you'll stop sort of going into the realms of sort of jazz chords, which is a separate subject. Something else I'm also asked is what C over E means, or C/E, when you're looking at a chord sequence and you can see 2 chords written with a / between them. What does that mean? Well, it means C with an E in the bass. So if it has C/E, the main chord is C, and then after the / you have an E, which is the lowest note. So for example, if you have a C chord like this, the lowest note here is a C. But if I put the E at the bottom, the E is still in that C chord, but it's changed the complexion of the chord a little bit. So, the chorus, or the intro to Power of Love, Huey Lewis and the News. C, C over E, F and G. And that's how it works. So you could have a C over G, for example. If you have a C chord here, I could put my G on the 6th string and complete the shape like that. Or I can have an A shape with my bar finger covering the 6th string as well. I could have any note underneath that C chord. It could be C over B. A minor, F, C, C over B, A minor, etc. I could have C with a D in the bass. That's called an 11 chord, actually. So I've actually got C over D and then D. Things like that are often, when you change the bass note, it often completely changes what the chord is. So it's actually quite important, if you see that chord written, to make sure that you can put that bass note in, because it does change the complexion, changes the whole perspective of it. If you're a bass player, or if you're in a band where you've got the bass player, that's not a problem, because the bass player will always play that other note that you would otherwise have to find on guitar. But if you're playing something solo, you'll have to basically locate those notes yourself. So there is really those sort of chords. You've got your 7, minor 7, sus4, major 7, and then this where you change your bass note. There are a few other chords that you may see. For example, you might see a 6th chord, and that means you're adding the 6th note to your major chord. So, or minor, you could have a minor 6, but the 6 is always the same note. So C, for example, my bass note is C, which is the first of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Have to count up 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There it is. So if I was to put a C chord there and then change the fingering so I could get that 6th note in, it's a different sounding chord. We Have All the Time in the World, that Louis Armstrong tune. Easy enough with an A shape chord, because as before I said don't use the first string. Actually that first string is the 6th. So for example, C 6th, if I was to play C as an A shape, if I was to now cover all of those strings, I get my 6th note at the top here. Now I can have a minor 6th as well. So if I play a D minor here, to find the 6th note, it's that one there, but I've had to take a finger away from my shape. So actually what I can do is flatten my annular finger slightly to play both the middle strings. And there's my D minor 6th chord. I could do that on an open D minor. There's my open D minor. I could do so that's a D minor 6th is actually quite a useful open shape because you can put that elsewhere. You can do something like this. F minor 6, G minor 6. You can also play G minor here. You could put those 2 fingers there and add your 6th note here. There's so much to explore. But once you have one 6th chord that you've got from a chord sequence, you can just put it anywhere else. That's the beauty of guitar, because it's fretted. Anything you do in one place will ring true in another place, albeit with a different chord.